Ready, Rock?
Ready? All right, Artie Quitter podcast. That theme song. Do we still do the air conditioner or no?
No, we do the all your intros from the talk shows.
Right. I don't know. I think the feedback's the air conditioner. People like the air conditioning song better that Paul Anka wrote for us. That would be great if I asked Paul Anka if he was still alive to write my theme song, which he did the Tonight Show, and it's just the only thing we have the rights to is my air conditioning noise. We can only play 6 seconds of it. So Dan, do it. Recreate it for Rob. Wait 1 second. If there was an album cover of Dan, if Dan put out a blues album. Okay, but like the bluesiest parts of his life. By the way, Rob Barnett is here. One of my favorite guests, and he's on the 300 show. You know the 300 show?
I heard this.
Yeah,
Congratulations. I brought you naked juice. As a Jew, I didn't want to come in empty-handed.
Naked Jews?
I brought naked Jews for, yeah.
Who are they? Is anybody from Schindler's List? Naked. By the way, in Schindler's List, those Jews at Auschwitz, the extras, they're hung like, I mean, that really... I think Spielberg purposely hired Jews for the Auschwitz extras with enormous cocks. I mean, that takes away the stereotype immediately. I was in a steam room with Dennis Rodman, and he was, naked. And very, very, very disconcerting. This was in Vegas. He turns around. Dan, what are you doing?
I'm getting ready.
For what? I know the thing. Okay, I'm sorry. All right, real quick. I'll show you. If Dan put out a blues album, all the sad parts of his life, whenever I asked him to play the theme song, which was my air conditioning noise, he would have to put the mic up. The picture, a still shot of Dan doing this would have to be the cover of his blues album. Go ahead, Dan. This is a man who's produced radio. He's been in major radio for 40 years. He was part of one of the most iconic moments in radio. And, of course, I'm talking about when Steve Dahl started doing Blow. No, the Disco Demolition. And he's holding a microphone up to an air conditioner because we don't have the rights.
Sometimes he would make me stand here for an hour, Rob.
Yeah, right, okay. Like that ain't gonna happen. Well, that's fine, thank you. He's basically he's now working for a fat junkie in Hoboken. I love talking to Rob. If you heard, you were two other times, right?
We could be 3 or 4.
Right.
I don't know.
I mean, it's just like he's a real successful guy. Was the president of CBS for a while. CBS Radio, that distinction, or just Les Moonves was your immediate upper guy, whatever that means. But Rob had the awful task of being the guy trying to figure out radio after the tentpole that was Howard Stern left, and not easy. And it sounded like you had all the right suggestions, but what a weird time, man. And you were a big fan of the show, and we like a lot of the same stuff, and a great storyteller. And would you look back on that time when you had to sort of, be the head of that situation that was a mess, through no fault of your own, and being a fan of Howard and being in the middle of it, was that probably the most stressful part of your professional life?
It was
that time,
I got to talk to Howard about it on his show years after it went down, and I said the whole thing was so surreal. It was an impossibility,
right?
And so, I felt like I was the guy.
What were you going to do?
I was the guy in there that was trying to respect Howard. I said, because they were fucking with him towards the end, right? There was
absolutely
suspensions and all this stuff, and I kept going in and saying, do you understand? Forget him for a second. If you piss his fans off and then have to replace the radio show and hope that, 1/100th of the audience was going to listen. So, I mean, it was, it was kind of the thing that put me off the idea of working in a corporate situation. So here you are sitting in this amazing apartment inside the future of show business, right? You don't have a CBS. You don't have anybody telling you what to do.
It's amazing.
I think you figured a bunch of it out.
This is, technically, I make a a living, without getting into details, I make over six figures doing what I'm doing right now, and that's we figured out maybe 30 or 40,000 people steal the show. A tech guy did a long time to research that. He said, and Art, there's nothing we can do about it. It's like one guy puts up a website, he puts a variation of my name, like one letter, they find it, but by the time he got every show, and he advertised every Artie Lang podcast here, and by the time we take it down, we can't take it down, YouTube will do it. People have downloaded it, and then the next day he's got another website up, and that's one guy. And they go record corporations, people can't figure out how to stop it. So you just got to deal with it. And what pisses me off is, the people that are responsible for the money I make, some of them are like me. It's a quarter a day, Rob. If you like me, I'm going to go out on a limb here. If you're a fan of my comedy, and I know that's not a mainstream large group, okay? I'm not, I'm not Jerry Seinfeld. I'm not Fred Travalena. But, there's enough of a group, and has been for the last 20 years, to where I can make a fucking living at this. And which is, you could say I'm the reason we fought the fucking Revolutionary War. Talking about overachieving. I mean, look at me. And my father would punch me in the face if he saw what I'm doing right now. He never came close. Six figures. I think my old man's best year was about 38.5, and take a ladder off a frozen truck. I mean, I worked with him. A frozen. Tom Selleck in the reverse mortgage commercial. I want to kill him. But look at you sellout. You're selling out your fucking elderly people. Yeah, just another way for the bank to get your fucking house right. It is. They've explained reverse mortgages to me, by the way. The bank's betting that you die. Because guess what happens? If you die, they get the house.
And at what time period?
Just however long you can, until you can pay the loan back.
Oh, God.
You'll never pay the loan back. The money disappeared. Oh, my God, for Christ's sake. You know what? He should start. I hope he uses the money he makes from his commercial to start a new Magnum PI, and it fails. How many mustache rides does that thing have? How many Hawaiian broads have been fucking hanging 10 on that fucking thing? It aggravates me. I wouldn't take it. It's not fair, Rob.
Yeah, we can't look at
every single commercial. Jennifer Aniston was just on one of the most. I gets me furious. This commercial. Here's Jennifer Aniston's latest commercial. How much money does she fucking need? And she's got to own the company at this point. And Howard is friends with her. And I knew a different Howard. I knew a Howard that was not friends with her. I knew a Howard that during the news would hear her name and say, Robin and Artie, her pussy must be rancid. Nobody stays with it. What else is in the news? And I used to be offended by it. I would go to friends. Did something happen? Well, what happened with those two? Now, is that her wedding? Does that come up? Did he make a toast with that one? Jesus God.
And this is coming off the heavy rotation of the Emirates Airways, where she walks around in a bathrobe on the plane. Have you seen that one?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's not too condescending. She's pissed there's no shower on the plane. There is a Continental has a shower. It's called that disgusting sink. Oh, it's disgusting. So Harder was do coke off that on that hour-long Vegas flight.
Oh, God.
I don't want to get into it. Rob, we've all been there. So here's the new Jennifer Aniston commercial. And I'm, when I get Rob here, I'm all over the place because, he could talk about anything. But see if this aggravates you. She goes, all my friends know so much about me, but for years, all of my friends didn't know this one thing. I have dry, itchy eyes. What? And I feel like calling Howard up and saying, Howard, did you know? Yeah, dry, itchy eyes. Now, how many takes does that? I mean, I remember one time talk about the conversation I saw when I was still doing the Norm Show. There was a bar in Burbank. We used to go get drinks out. Me and Laurie Metcalf, who was an odd duck, one of the most talented people ever, but like the most geniuses, not, telling you about her dry, itchy eyes. Jennifer Aniston, Ellen DeGeneres, and the nanny. What's her face?
Fran Drescher.
Yeah, all Howard's gals. And what a funny booth. That booth was a David Schwimmer away from a hit sitcom. She's probably got how much money, you're a media guy, right? How much money is Jennifer Aniston worth, you think?
Let's go 100. let's go 150 million.
That means she made 300 mil probably. Yeah. And the money on weed. Let me tell you, she amazing weed. Amazing weed. If you drove by her house, I would feel a piss ton. And I mean, again, allegedly. I just saw Dr. Phil. The John Benet Ramsey case. I haven't told my audience this. You didn't get into that, huh?
No.
Yeah, it's fascinating, man. It really is. What the fuck happened that night? And there's all sorts of rumors. Odds are the father did it. But there's the brother was 9, she was 6. He's now talking to Dr. Phil's enormous head in his new show, and he's odd looking. He's got those crazy eyes, and I think he's a typical millennial. He is a computer programmer, doesn't leave the house, so he's a successful guy. Do was special, Rob. I want your opinion on this. All the parents were crying because they said our kids are never going to work because they don't know how to socialize with a boss. If a boss says something mean, they cry almost, even the guys. So they think they'll never leave the house and work from the house or just inherit the money from the parents. I mean, do you think that's what the world is going to come to for white middle class people?
I mean, have you seen Black Mirror? I'm obsessed with this show.
No.
Oh, you got to see this show. Black Mirror is a Netflix show. There's only been like 6 or 7 of them. It's like a Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
It takes the obsession with the phone and pushes it about 6 or 7 or 8 years forward, where it's totally to the point.
Oh, I know.
Where every single thing that you and I are doing now, these eyeball things, record. You know,
I know. Wow. That is right. Exactly. Talk about you could be looking at a cop doing something wrong. And I mean, again, every once in a while I'll lay an occasional bet. I still do some nefarious stuff. I don't want this. How is the mob operating right now? A bunch of guys in Philly just got busted for running numbers. There's guys who still run the fucking numbers. The Sopranos covered it. There's housewives in Indiana can tell you about running the fucking numbers. I mean, I guess cops get paid off, but you can't do it. There's a camera every 2 feet now. And yeah, this is the first generation not as smart as their phones. Think about it. They ask them everything. And it's immediate satisfaction. So that's what the show is based completely on the future.
It's awesome. It's dark as hell.
Scary.
Every single one is dark. John Hamm did one. They have different actors in each one, different writers, different directors.
Wow.
But it takes our psychotic obsession with typing to the deepest level.
Well, I've said this before. My father, a real visionary, I failed typing in 1981. Okay, I kept doing a Ray Charles impression. The guy wouldn't, and he didn't pass. I failed fucking typing.
You played typing for laughs.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Mr. Kleminski, the fucking teacher, Artie, get out. Get out. Just get out of the school. Just get out of school. Don't go to the principal. Just leave school. That's what he would say. No, I don't go.
Don't go to the office.
Just go right to go right to like where construction site and ask for a job. That's technically what I did. Asshole. I hope you're fucking happy, Clay. He used to smoke like a chimney. I hope he's coughing like Hillary Clinton right now. By the way,
Dan's gonna Google to see if he's dead. Hold on.
when she was coughing, by the way, she looked like Hyman Roth. She looked like Hyman Roth.
This was the thing that upset me the most. What upset me the most about the coughing was the lack of mic technique. You and I have been on microphones for our entire careers. Right. So has Dan.
Yeah.
So if you watch the tape all over again, everyone's focused on Tim Kaine, not knowing what to do and nervous laughing behind her. I'm focused on the fact that every single time she
what
coughs,
else
she coughs into the mic.
Right in the mic.
Every single time.
Well, you know how many fucking comedians Michael Winslow gave the flu and fucking those are fun fucking guys. Richard Jeni had in his rider a certain type of brand new microphone.
Each
you had to have, and of course, that made him happy.
Look what that did.
That made him happy. Because these fucking guys who own comedy clubs, the most ne'er-do-well, lazy fucking. You change the mics? Oh yeah, you change the mics. You fucking the mics don't work sometimes. They pay no attention. The spit, grime. Hillary Clinton spit. And again, so these speaking as a comic, like everything goes comedically to and she's talking about being well. And they dug up some footage. Again, nobody picked up on this. Her and Bill sitting next to each other about 15 years ago, and she's talking about the fact that she she's got it. She has to remind herself with the fast schedule to stay hydrated. I always tell Bill the same thing, and I'm like a nagging wife. If I leave, he's not hydrated, and I come home like a kid. He's sick, and I on the road I just pump myself with fluids, and people have to tell me like I'm a kid, and I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute. So Hillary, what you're telling me is, when you leave for a long weekend, you come back and Bill seems drained of fluids? That's what she said. That's exactly what she said. Yeah. Whenever I go away, Bill would seem drained of fluids. That's what he looks like now. I'll tell you what. Looks like a guy took a paper towel full of cum and wrung it out. Terrible. What's going on there?
Now, can we get back to the John Benet Ramsey thing for a second?
Yeah, well, go ahead. What about it?
Okay.
Again, it's just boring.
No. So you think the father did it?
No, I don't think anything.
Okay.
I don't know. I wasn't there. What do you think?
Okay. My former roommate, Mark Grace, dated one of the nannies.
It's always about him.
And I said...
It's always a humble...
I asked her, I said, so what's the deal? And she said, I don't think the mother or the father did it.
This never happened.
And then I said, isn't there a brother? I don't think the mother and the father did it.
Right.
So...
Maybe she was just trying to get rid of you.
No, I don't think so.
So what does that mean? Wow. Cut that out, that story.
Really?
Rob, now, I know you like Dan. Is that worthy of 300 episodes? The kid was 9. What, so he just fucking killed his sister?
Yes. Have you seen the 9-year-olds?
All right. Again, I forgot your childhood. Jesus. Did you hear about Dan's favorite ice cream place? In the show? Cock Robin. He casually says that.
No.
And he wonders why I'm laughing. I'm like, Dan, you really thought you were going to get away with that?
Mine was Carvel. Cock Robin was the rest of my family.
I can't take it. He said, yeah, no, Vinny's favorite was Cock Robin. Vinny,
That's decades of therapy.
Decades, literally decades. So the Hillary Clinton thing with the fall, what's going on? That was the eeriest thing ever. What do you think is going to happen? Give me is she going to finish this race?
What's going to happen is we spend 48 hours obsessing about each insanity.
Right.
So now if we have like 50, someone do the math, if there's almost 60 days left, we're going to have 30 more insane things.
Yeah. Every day something happens. One of these two does something. Yeah. And the Gary Johnson is like, I got to make believe I don't know where Aleppo is. Yeah. Just to get a... By the way.
Hey, how about Mike Barnicle who finally made his moment, right?
I know. Well, listen.
How many years has he been in media?
That's true.
Mike Barnicle's now the center of the world for 24 hours.
Think of what people... Think about what people think of when they hear media, and his last name's Barnicle. And it's like, you change that to anything. But again, Gary Johnson, he's got that pot laugh. That Spicoli, that very... He was on that show, The Five. It looked like he was trying to get a threesome going. He kept putting awkwardly his arms around the black guy and that Dana Perino. Hey guys, are we having fun? And he laughed. And it's very odd. And any response than the one he gave would have been better. Then what? He could have said, he's my least favorite Marx brother. Aleppo Marx.
Oh, that's awesome. You just said something that was in my subconscious and I didn't even know it was there.
Well, you know what? I have a picture of the Marx brothers at Hirschfeld and I heard him say that. I looked at it, so I had some help.
That's awesome.
But yeah, Eppo. Any Eppo. I go right to the Marx brothers. Any Eppo. To Aleppo, yeah, listen, I heard he originally had the silent and Harpo. What if he just said that? I went the faces on those pictures. Yeah. So again, Hillary has, the main. Think about what goes on. Like, what's George Clooney thinking right now? He threw her $300,000 a plate. $300,000 a plate. Does that include the appetizer? You get roughage with that.
Did you hear what McCartney said?
What?
This was, as far as I can tell, one of the first times Paul McCartney's ever been a wise ass.
Right.
It might have been only a week ago. It's Jimmy Buffett, John Bon Jovi, and Paul McCartney do a Hamptons benefit.
Yeah. Well, let me guess how he's wise. He said, had a glass of wine, said to Bon Jovi, "Bad Medicine." What a great song. Wait a minute. Let me just say, I wish John was here. If I see John in the afterlife, I'm going to go, listen, there's a cat, that came along about 10, 11 years after you died. I'm just going to say this to you. Fuck day in life. How many times do you want to say to a chick, your love's like bad medicine? Bad medicine, ooh, ooh.
They raised $3.7 million. So McCartney was quoted.
One of them dropped their wallet?
He did two things. He said, as far as I know, this is the first time I've ever had to pay to see myself play.
That's fantastic.
Isn't that great?
Oh, that is great.
It's so great. I love that he did that.
It is, again, these guys probably, they're more like that than probably, and they want to, the conversation I had with Springsteen on the phone, towards the end when he loosened up a little bit, he was, busting balls about his kid, and, you find out that they're more aware of themselves, and some of them are aware of the icon that they are in a way, and they goof on it. And which makes it easier for, someone like me to talk to them. I met McCartney at the Stern Show a couple times. And, I was savvy enough just not to go near him. The class, I don't know if you remember this, but David Wells was on the show, and he was on the same day he was on the show, he was on the cover of the back cover of the sports section of the Daily News. I asked him to sign. I asked for an autograph, and Howard, we come back and Howard goes, listen, Art, I realize you haven't been on anything that was exactly a hit, but there's a certain etiquette. Could you not ask the guest for you're the host of a co-host of the show. It was awkward. He signed, he told us the story that A-Rod would not sign something for him as a teammate. David Wells, bit the bullet. A cousin of his that we loved said, I love A-Rod. Can you get him to sign a ball? And you know how hard it must have been as a teammate.
I was going to say, it had to be for a family member, right?
And A-Rod goes, no, I don't do that. They're teammates. Unbelievable. It's just, are you as obsessed with the election as I can't stop, as a comic, too, I can't stop watching it. Like, I can't wait to do that body fluids joke. The audience will sit and listen to setups. They want to hear the shit. You're right. A new thing happens every day where you could write a fucking 30-minute routine.
It's constant.
Yeah,
it's constant. No, it's constant. It's hysterical, but it's also fucking tragic.
What is this country like under President Trump? I mean, like, that's realistic. What do you think that? I mean, do you think it's so? I mean, look, he's not Hitler. I live in show business. It's a little too crazy. At least I haven't seen any policies that are Hitler-like yet. But, he said some crazy things. But they're hypocrites because she says crazy shit, too. She basically called half of his followers, dirtbags. And a lot of them are, they're cops, and firemen. It's very weird. Show business is divided. I did that HBO show, Crashing. Every single person on the creative side, from Judd Apatow on down the line, big time, Hillary, obviously. Every single Teamster, key grip, cameraman, vocally, rebelliously for Trump.
How did they say? Like, tell me what's a conversation.
Well, here's it. A Teamster picks you up for a budget like that. They got full Teamster and people think Teamsters are in this country. They think Jimmy Hoffa and these tough guys, are on a strike. Not a lot of Teamsters. The major work is through films. A Teamster drives you to work every morning, and when I did Old School, the same Teamster drove me as Vince Vaughn. He would get me. I was staying at the Mondrian when we did it. I was on it for 2 weeks. He would get me and he would go, listen, I got Vince Vaughn just told me, if I don't come out, just come in and get me. I was king. Like, he would have to roust Vaughn. Sometimes it'd be a broad there. It was great. I go, let me come in. I say, what the fuck? I've been on Mad TV. He's going to think I'm a Teamster. The cable's out. But that's what a lot of these guys do. And they're very, they hear... so they're in the car with Tina Fey and Amy Pine. These are people I know, and I'm friendly with them. But the worst enemy I think a Democratic nominee can have sometimes is Ashton Kutcher telling a worker in Kansas who to fucking vote for. Oh, yeah. They get mad because you seem arrogant. So these Teamsters hear that and they feel condescended to, and to a man. Every one of them is Trump. And they're afraid they know I'm sort of like one of them, a guy's guy. And I'm not political at all, but they feel comfortable saying shit around me. I said, listen, I'll point guys out to you who are writers, who are big deals here. Do not talk politics to that guy, and that guy. Do not tell that guy, I pointed to the judge, because they don't know who he is. Yeah. I said, do not tell that guy why you like Donald Trump. Because you'll be working on the fucking Mad TV reunion. So it's an odd time, but they're violent about it. The Teamsters, they're vocal, like they're waiting for. They'll throw a punch if the wrong thing is said. Yeah. So I don't know. And Trump can fan that fire with just a little. He's got some power to fan that fire. With a little word, he's got to be responsible with that power. But. I think Hillary's sick. I think she's very sick. I think it's more than... and she lied. She's lying about it. How she can't get away with that? She lied for 2 days about
That's the worst part of it. The worst part of this...
It always is.
This, of the next 30 controversies, is the 2 days of lying.
Right,
it's exactly. The 2 days of lying and saying, it's cough allergy. It's like... It was diagnosed as pneumonia. They got caught.
And when are they going to learn their lesson, these politicians? Like the Nixon thing, it's not the deed, it's the cover-up.
Yeah.
I mean, Reagan with Iran-Contra, what Watergate was basically a college prank compared to Iran-Contra. You're talking about weapons. He broke in to get some information. And then, of course, the lies. That's what did him in. And she's just not getting that. It's weird. She looks old, and of course the other great thing is, she has pneumonia. 70-year-old woman has pneumonia. Any good doctor would tell a 70-year-old woman getting over pneumonia, okay, the first thing you want to do is run for president. Okay, relax for a day. Okay, plenty of liquids. And
take 5 flights in the next 13 hours.
Yeah, run for president against the most batshit crazy lunatic in the history of the fucking politics. I mean, what is she gonna? She's not gonna. And if she gets the job, it's tenfold the schedule.
Stress.
I don't know if she could do it. I mean, do you? That's what that schedule. He might not make it either. Trump. He could drop dead.
There's too much. Yeah. There's too much shrouded. We filmed John Kerry in 2004. We did a film. We convinced him to let us stay backstage every single day.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Camera. Who was that for?
We first did it for Discovery. We did a TV series.
I remember that. Yeah.
And then we did a feature on him. We called it Inside the Bubble. And
right. Okay. I remember that. Yeah.
And in the final where we are now, these final weeks.
Yeah.
It's 5 flights a day.
Unbelievable.
The staff is up at 4:30, maybe 5 a.m.
Oh,
and then
they work their
you're
ass off.
Back in some hotel at 1 o'clock in the morning. Have a couple drinks, go to bed. And if you're sick, there's nothing you can do. We filmed the 4 or 5 senior staffers to Kerry. And when they got sick, someone would go to a drugstore, buy everything,
right,
and just go here, take it all.
Wow.
There's nothing you can do.
You found out that Kennedy wasn't going to the drugstore; it was coming to him.
Right.
And that makes total sense. The schedule is unnerving. And I've made that very smart call where okay, I could be tired during the sketch and not do a good job, or I could call the guy with the Rasta head and see if he can meet me at Duke's parking lot. Then bad decisions are made. This is, you don't start thinking rationally. Lack of sleep. She got a grandkid. This is when she should be playing with the grandkid, and making sure Bill has plenty of fluids. And they always got to have, we mentioned this before too, they always got to have a perfect counteract if they fuck up the Clintons. Like, they showed her out hugging the kid, and and now I'm not sick, see, I'm fine. She walks slow. I'm worried about her. I would be, if I was her in her family, I'd be worried about her. So we'll see what happens. What is the deal with the Rolling Stones? Have you heard? Are they done? What's going on with the Stones? You were the first guy to tell me. You were the first guy to have seen them in the 50th anniversary mode at the City Winery that night. You told me you had seen them. Are they slowly just phasing out? Are they on tour? What's going on?
They're playing.
They're in Vegas. They just added another show.
They're playing. They're doing that the old Coachella thing, right?
Right.
And then they added 2 Vegas right after that. They're releasing
Coachella. They're doing Coachella, or
the people are calling it old.
Old
Coachella.
Right. That's hilarious.
And they're releasing this a film on the show they just did in Cuba.
How many films are they going to have? How many Stones
and they're
films?
recording. And they're recording. Don Was has just been recording with them
Are
again.
they gonna, Don, okay.
Yeah.
How many? Listen. How many fucking times can we retell these stories? It's I love them to death, but Brown Sugar. Charlie Watts' face when they go into Brown Sugar. How what do we got? What do we got? Tell them the dice. Bill Wyman quit 35 years ago with $200 million. He's like, I don't feel like Mick's like, you don't want to. No, I'm done. I'm done, guys. In every tour that Bill Wyman's there, sometimes he's not playing. In Let's Spend the Night Together, they go into Shattered. He's lighting a cigarette the first 3 minutes. And then he starts playing the bass. The same sound is coming off the stage. He's looking for pussy the whole time.
Oh, God.
Have you seen these Bruce shows? Have you been to one of the shows?
Danny went the other night. I gotta go. I know it's 4 hours every night, right?
It has been.
How did he not pee? How did he not pee? You know what I mean?
There's theories about that.
I saw him in Paris. It was 4 hours. That's 4 years ago. I peed 4 times. I'm peeing next to a sweaty fucking French guy who's singing Thunder Road in French. I wanted to kill him. La screen door, it was hot in that fucking place.
Oh my God! And it
no air
smelled.
conditioning.
There was.
How many have you seen?
On this tour, I've seen a 5 or 6.
Where'd you see them?
I just went to D.C. I think it was last week.
Yeah,
saw a
wow.
bunch of the shows here.
So how many cities did you go? D.C. You just went purely just to see them?
Well, I had some friends down there. A bunch of college friends.
Right.
We would all go together.
It makes you feel young, doesn't it?
It did.
That's why I go.
It does. It does. It brings back everything. I first saw him in '76. Was the first time I saw him.
Yeah. Wow. Think about that. Just sit there. I'm fine. I'm fine. Just sit there.
I didn't know what you were getting.
I'm fine. Dad, I'm fine. This fucking paper towel. Dad, I'm fine. Look at this. He would have watched me. He never would have gotten up.
I didn't know what you were getting.
The lack of effort. When I touched the paper towels, what do you think was happening?
You gave me 1 second to think of what you were grabbing.
This is what I want for the 300th episode. Nils is
A roll that unfolds.
Thank you, John. Nils is supposed to call in, by the way.
Yeah.
And what are the chances of Nils calling in?
He's calling in. He texted me.
Is he?
They're having dessert, and he's going to call in. In about,
Oh, dessert.
Rich guys have dessert. That's fucking 4 hours. He's got to order a certain type of mousse.
Nice mousse.
Oh, God. So, 76 you saw him. We talked about that before. What venue did you see him in 76?
I saw him at the Palladium in New York.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
It was amazing.
You know what I saw at the Palladium in New York? Here's the difference in generations. Stacy Q.
Oh, my God.
And I didn't know she was performing.
How?
I didn't know she was performing.
All right.
Some broad told me to meet her there.
I'll let you off the hook.
Yeah, well.
You got there by accident.
Some chick told us to meet her there. and I don't know if she was a chick. She came from the meatpacking when it was the meatpacking. I know Guidos from North Jersey who have fucked trannies and
didn't know.
Yeah, and a few people know it. And basically, like I've had conversations with them. Basically, because I got on the radio and they went, listen, if I hear you said it, if I hear you bring up this story, I don't care if you change my name. It can be traced back. If I hear you bring this up anywhere, I'll kill you. And the kid's in jail now. So the Palladium. Oh, what a play! Oh.
I was in the balcony.
14th Street.
14th Street.
What a classic place.
Yep, it was awesome.
Yeah.
I used to tape record the shows. I used to tape the shows I saw in the 70s on Memorex cassettes.
You have any of those?
I have some.
Do you really?
Yeah, I have some.
The quality must not be
the
great.
The quality's shit, but it was good enough for me to remember. And then because
good for you, that's great.
As a teenager, I'd listen back years later to these cassettes. You'd get to the end.
That's fun.
Be like Led Zeppelin at Madison Square Garden. Then you'd hear at the end, like 11 o'clock, you go, fuck, Mom's outside. We got to go. What time is it?
That's great. I used to do a thing about. I used to make fun of Journey fans. I said, "Here's my impression of every kid at a Journey concert. I have a lighter up like this, and I go, what time's Mom picking us up?" So Palladium, how many people sit? I'm trying to think. I was there. It was a dance club when I was there, and then Stacy Q out of nowhere, like a promotion for a radio station. She did 2 songs. One was called Love Baby. One was Baby Love. I think. It can't be more than a couple hundred people in that main showroom, or no?
Palladium was like a small beacon, I think.
Right.
I want to say.
That was street. So it's bigger.
Yeah.
It's bigger. The old Ritz, which became Webster Hall, I saw Southside there. I saw Joe Walsh. I saw Petty. And Elvis Costello, all at the one on East 11th Street.
Yep.
And Squeeze. Those were good. But Bruce I saw do a spontaneous show at the Pony. That was great. But to go see him, and then how much more in love do you fall with him as a performer after that? Like, you love him already, but after seeing that for the first... How old are you in 76?
16.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was born in 60.
Perfect.
So 16, and then that was it. I got totally hooked and did everything I could to go to every tour he's ever done.
What's he open with on 1976 at the Palladium?
Let me think if I can remember.
Probably Thunder Road or something, right? Probably some off Born to Run, I would assume.
Born to Run was just, what it would have been? It would have been something like... I know he played this that night. He played It's My Life by the Animals.
Wow,
I remember he played that.
He was into he loves those guys because, you know why it makes sense? Because the get out of town aspect. It's my life, I can do what I want.
Yeah, it's a great song.
The other great hit is about we got to get out of this place.
Yes.
That whole theme of get the fuck out, the last lyrics and so the Animals. He covered a lot of shit, but I never heard he did that. Wow.
Yeah, it was a great cover.
And would he do a long version of it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Any songs from Darkness that were written already, even though they hadn't been released, would you hear stuff like that?
Not in 76. No, that would be before. Yeah, but that tour, the 78 tour, is one of the best tours they've ever done. I think, honestly, not to bum you out, because Dan's seen it and I've seen it, this tour they're playing as well as I've ever seen it play.
Well, I'm going to go.
I'm sure Nils will say that.
Right.
They're at a peak. There's something about, especially these last couple of weeks, where he's decided to just say, what if every single night I go out and try and do the best show I've ever done?
Okay, well, here's my question. Is he saying sort of goodbye on this tour?
Not at all. Well, they just announced Australia,
New Zealand.
and New Zealand
Well,
today.
I'm saying that's part of it. Do you think this stretch?
No.
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 Well,
I don't think, it's something people would bring up and they would ask, but it doesn't seem like there's that bone in his body to stop. It just doesn't seem like it.
It's very it's you wonder if there's one of the guys who could die who he'd start. Clarence, of course, would have been the guy, and again, everything works out for Bruce. You think who's going to replace Clarence that the audience would embrace, and of course, a relative, a younger kid who's great. Not that wall of sound that hits you. When musicians talk about, the difference in a sax player, I'd always, especially with jazz stuff, like I can't tell the fucking difference. I don't know what you're talking about. And they always said that about Clarence with that wall of sound that hits you with like a real, and until I heard someone else, go into that Born to Run solo, or particularly in Trapped, the song to that.
Oh, I love that song. I just did that. That was the one that killed me in D.C. last week.
Right.
They did that. They hadn't played it,
The one that hits you.
That's the one. It pulled that out, and I just, I yelled. It got real quiet for a second. I was down on the floor, and I yelled, "I love you." You get, comedians are so cynical and sarcastic about you. You don't allow, it's funny. A lot of comics are afraid to allow themselves to be corny about something or romantic about something. And to me, it's important that you have at least one thing, maybe two things where you go, I'll get a little cool. I'll show my fucking cornier side, fan side, yeah.
With the romance or something, and there's two things that get me like that. At times it was the Yankees, and definitely the music of Bruce Springsteen, and how I related to it. And when he was getting inducted in the East Street Band to the Hall of Fame, my girlfriend, who was 29 at the time, she was sitting right there, and I was sitting here, and she saw me crying as he's giving a speech, and she goes, "How come my generation doesn't have a Bruce Springsteen?" I go, "I can't believe how into it you guys are." And I go, "I don't know, he sings songs I can relate to, like making out with a girl under the boardwalk." And she goes, "Really?" I go, "Yeah, the reason you don't have that is because you can't relate to a guy in a Bentley with all gold chains who got the hottest bitches in Knowledge." Maybe there's not as much of a fucking connection. I said, all it is a beat with you guys. Like that fucking song, Niggas in Paris, Niggas in Paris. I'll say it. They said it. All that song is Quincy Jones is telling me, he goes, you need that melody. You got to move people dancing, you got to hit. He could have written anything over that. In gibberish, and this generation will go, I'm dancing to it, and you got to hit. Listen to the fucking lyrics in Born to Run song compared to the hit songs nowadays. It's like classical music, I mean the raps in between, the fucking DJ Tiesto now. He's got a laptop. 80,000 people he set with a fucking laptop. You used to yell out for guitar solos, and I do a joke. I go, "What do you yell out now? Hit the space bar. Check your email." Instead of doing this, hey, Clapton, do a long solo in Layla. Hey, Tiesto, can you go to my website? Fucking assholes. And promoters tell you, they go, I saw a guy on VH1 actually, he said, "Look, what do you think I'm going to promote? I'm a businessman. 5 guys in a band, one of them might be a fucking junkie who can't make it to the goddamn plane, or a fucking guy with abs who's efficient with a laptop." 80,000 people, a couple of those Swedish guys, they're all hopped up. It's a version of the Dead. They're all high. They're not going to wake up and go, "What the fuck was I listening to?" It's a shame. What's next? Kids already can't talk to you. They can't socialize. What the fuck's next down the pike? What are those kids? Do you have, how many kids do you have?
3.
Yeah. Now, is your relationship good with them?
Yeah, I have one older who's 20. She'll be 23. So she's been to a ton of Bruce shows.
And she's a Bruce fan.
and then
have you made her a true fan of it, or no?
Oh yeah, her whole life.
Oh, that's great.
In the
well, that's good parenting.
Well, it just it was just a part of our life.
Right? Yeah,
it was a part of our life. So it became a part of our life. And then my youngest kids are twins. They're almost 9.
Wow.
I told Dan yesterday, because of Bruce, for
Right.
September 11th,
Right.
we were at the New Jersey Community Food Bank. We've been doing it
Oh, okay.
3 years in a row
Wow,
to
that's
teach them,
good.
like, here's a thing you could do on
Right,
this
that's great.
day that sucks, you know?
Yeah. And I look, I mean, where I live right now, I look at the Freedom Tower.
Looking
every day.
right at it.
It's unbelievable. The memorial was on yesterday, and I'm looking at them looking at that. I look over and I go, you know, I first started on Howard. I bought this place in July of '01, and I had to go to Europe to do a part in a movie. I was there for 2 weeks, and I did stand-up in London on the way back. And when I got back, this place was being painted. I closed, and I left town. And I had been part-time on Howard, and they went on vacation, and I didn't even think, you know, it was a possibility to get a job there. When I got back, you know, my agent called me in Europe. When I got to London, we shot the film in Cologne, Germany. It was this awful thing called Boat Trip with Will Ferrell and Cuba Gooding Jr. Banged the hottest chick I ever banged in my life. The chick thought I was Cuba Gooding Jr.'s friend, and didn't speak a word of English. We went to a club right up the Rhine River, and he was being nice. You know, I guess he was married, and you know, but he had a trainer who was doing well. This trainer stepped on a pussy landmine. I got hit with shrapnel. I was the chick thought I
showed her the quan.
Exactly.
You showed the quan.
Well, listen. She said, "Are you in the movie?" I said, "Yeah," which was not a lie. And she said, "Are you in the movie a lot?" Yeah, and that was a lie. It was a cameo. Me and Will Ferrell played gay lovers. A long story. I wouldn't let him kiss me on the lips. I said, "Guys, you don't know North Jersey homophobia. I told you. Do not get me over here. It's not my Uncle Sonny will never talk to me again. It's not worth it. I'll give you the 20 grand back." I had to point the shit to get her out of my room. There was a language barrier. I'd have been set the next day at 6 a.m. I'm pretty sure I promised her she'd be in the movie. And I said, show up to set at 2, you know, you're in. And she never showed up, thank God. She was lazy. And I think high. But I go doorknob by, you know. And then I flew to London, and I said, I got a call from my manager saying, you know, Howard wants you on more. He wants to give you Thursdays and Fridays. I said, Jesus. And my manager was a prolific. He said, I think he's going to offer you something in the fall. And sure enough, September 1st, Gary and Howard pulled me aside, offered it to me. They go, we got commitments to other comics. So we want to be loyal to that. But once they are up October 29th, and you can start then, full time. And, you know, it's still the single greatest thing that's ever happened in my career. The week of September 11th, I worked September 10th, September 12th, 13th, and 14th. Tuesday, September 11th, a guy named Vinnie Penn was scheduled. That's one of the commitments.
Wow.
I didn't work 9/11 because another guy was on. Rob, picture this. The one time, this is his one shot at making a fucking impression. And it was a comic Gary had seen in Connecticut. Not an established guy. It was a big deal for him. He barely talked until 8:30, and then, you know, you try to get your groove on.
And then it is.
It's just one day to try to be funny. To try to be 9/11. If that's not fucking a sign to just get into another business. Howard, I got a great story. Well, is it top the one that's on the monitor right now? He said it first, but were you listening? Were you listening that morning? The 9/11?
No, I was. I took as a matter of fact, we were mentioning Don Was a minute ago.
Classic producer.
We had a shoot that we were set to do in L.A. on September 11th. So I flew a crew from New York and New Jersey out to L.A.
A shoot, a TV film. What we video?
We were going to do a pilot. This is funny because you and I ended up talking about vinyl on a bunch of shows.
Right.
We had an idea on September 11th to do a pilot for a script that we had worked on with Don. The idea was going to be to do a show about rock and roll.
Right.
That had fiction, but that also had real musicians in it.
Okay.
So, you know, one of the things that pissed you and I off about vinyl was the fake music.
Oh, no. Terrible.
We had a studio booked in LA on September 11th.
Wow.
The singer was Joan Osborne, who lived right near the World Trade Center, so we flew
I remember
out.
that, yeah.
the band was going to be Questlove on drums.
Man.
Wendy and Lisa were in this band.
Yeah.
Don was producing.
Man.
And so for those of us that were in New York, we flew out on the 10th.
Oh man! Wow, you just missed it.
And then we wake up in this beautiful hotel that morning, and it happens. And I called Don, and we were in shock for like 20 minutes, and then at one point, I can't remember what his words were, but this was the idea. Don said, "What if we do this session?" I said, "That would be the fucking most amazing thing of all time."
Yeah.
Do you want to ask the musicians? He goes, I'll ask them.
Right.
And Joan had lived, right near the
I remember
Twin
seeing
Towers.
her interviewed. Yeah.
And
yeah.
she was, there was no way she was going to be able to get up and work,
Yeah.
But we were stuck out there, and then we couldn't get home for a week, which was really weird because my daughter was about 6 years old.
Oh man.
In New Jersey, and
But you had a sense that
we couldn't get home.
It's so great. Like a lot of New Yorkers in this area, I love the fact that people like you and Vinny Favale very famously, him and somebody else, I forget the guy's name. He was in the Howard World. The guy, I forget, but they drove home because they were in LA too. They wanted to come here. No one was running.
We wanted to get back.
Yeah, right,
That's
exactly.
right.
I was so happy that I was here. This place was getting painted. The one day I'm not on Howard, Sam Simon, the late Sam Simon, was with his fiance. Playboy playmate, a sweet girl, beautiful girl, a young playmate that we eventually married. They were in town because he had a meeting with Howard to pitch a TV thing, Sam. They were at the St. Regis. I met him there, and we went. She set me up with her friend on like a date night. We had dinner. We ended up at the China Club. I made out with the girl. I gave her 45 of the worst minutes of her life, I believe.
A friend mate.
Exactly. And they left, and I at 5:30 in the morning, I left. Now, because this was getting painted, it was covered, and since it was my one day off, I wasn't going to listen to the show. I said I'm going to have fun. Sam was a friend at the time, and I said I'm going to blow it out and just sleep, get a good day's sleep. I miss being a comic and sleeping all day. I'm going to go to my mom's basement 5 miles from here and just put the air on, and that's it. My mother called me up and said put Howard on and everything when the plane hit. But as I'm leaving New York, I went and got a slice of pizza at this pizzeria by the restaurant Wohop, the Chinese restaurant Wohop. Has a pizzeria next to it. Wohop even there.
I love that place.
Yeah, I always just say it's like if a stutterer tried to call me a wop. That's how I was saying. Wop. And classic New York place too. Rob and I are talking about a classic Chinese restaurant on. It's on Mott Street, I believe.
I think so.
When it becomes Chinatown, those old Chinatown streets where those gangs used to negotiate underground and stuff. You got to go downstairs to eat. It's amazing Chinese food you can get 24/7. And Dan, you never went, right? We talked about
the line was
Never
too
been?
long.
Oh,
No,
we gotta go. We
Yeah.
gotta go.
We'll go
That's
tonight.
the best place.
It's about 4 in the
We'll
morning.
go now.
I got a slice of pizza from there, and as I went through the Lincoln Tunnel to go back to my mom's, the sun hit the trade centers. I'll never forget. I looked at it. I remember saying out loud with a full mouth of Mucino, "Boy, they look good in the sunlight." Very sentimental. Boy, I'll tell you, that's romantic. I should call Sam back up. See if that broad's still around. Sometimes it just works out for rich motherfuckers. Sam couldn't get out, had the meeting canceled, and he's at the St. Regis with a Playboy playmate for 5 days.
Oh God!
Ordering room service. You know how his day was?
It is karma.
Yeah, you know how his day was affected? They didn't have enough Swiss cheese for his omelet. Well, listen, I'll take Gorgonzola then. That's what I said.
He sacrificed.
Yeah. Yeah, what an asshole. I'm not one of these guys when a guy dies, they become great. Some people, Hitler dies. I don't talk about the dead. Shut up. Didn't we talk about this? The New Yorker magazine did a survey Let me ask you this. They honestly asked people who are like pacifists who read the magazine, if you could go back in time and Hitler was a baby, 1 year old, 2 years old, knowing, the premise is, he's going to become the guy who starts the Holocaust. Would you kill him as a baby?
Would you kill the baby?
Yeah. Would you? You'd have to, there's no gun around. You'd have to viciously stab him, strangle him. You'd have to watch the life go out of a baby's eyes. Could you do that, knowing that he'd kill 6 million people later on in life? Do you think you could do it?
And would I do it?
Yeah.
This is me having dead air.
No, listen, it means you're a compassionate person. I found out that I am not a compassionate person.
Yeah.
Because this is exactly what a lot of the people did. They said, it would be hard to do that.
Yeah.
But I am like, well, it's also a stand-up joke that I got out of it, too. And this does get a big laugh. But I said, I'm not trying to be funny. I'm being truthful. I said, Hitler is a no-brainer. I mean, I would kill baby Ryan Seacrest.
I'd kill baby Larry King.
I would baby every chick on The View. Baby A-Rod, without question. Before Hitler. You would baby Hitler. I mean, this is a true story, too. I don't know if I told Rob this. This got tweeted the month by somebody. A Jewish guy, true story, Jewish plumber was in Auschwitz, survived Auschwitz, moved to the States, became a master plumber, one of the most requested plumbers in the world, which was probably just the state of New Jersey. Died at 102, and I tweeted out, the only guy to make Angie's and Schindler's List. Well, that's wacky stuff. Let's go back to the controversies of the day. Do you buy that she didn't know what she meant?
Oh, that pissed me off too. Yeah.
I mean, every day. I mean, Trump.
That was
Trump
my favorite
stuff is
tweet
so
last week. Last week, my favorite tweet was a guy just put the letter C up.
Well, my tweet was with that. I said, I believe it. It could have been the Secret Service's nickname for her. I don't know. The Trump stuff is so crazy, but her stuff is out there too. But in a more, I don't know, man. I don't know if she could. What do the Democrats do if it turns out she's got to leave this race? What do they do? Is Joe Biden coming? What the fuck happened?
They can nominate whoever they want.
Well, I know. The question is who. Dan loves Elizabeth Warren.
They have to nominate Sanders, don't you think?
What about that? Are you into that?
They're gonna. There's enough medical science now
to keep her alive.
Robotically keep her alive. Yeah, whatever this is.
What about him alive?
Whatever this is. He just turned 75.
I know. An assassination plot against him is you have to wait. Right now, we're killing Bernie Sanders. It's a very, very odd time, but again, I'm not upset about it because I know I'm going to go, but the Bruce thing is, now I can't wait it away. Every person who I respect has given it a great review. I can't wait. When are you going to see him again? Do you have a plan, or is it going to be spontaneous?
Well, it's wrapping up, when...
Boston, right? You got Boston?
Yeah, they played the 9/11 show in Pittsburgh last night.
For Shanksburg, yeah. Is that why he did that, for the plane that went down? Or because he's very into that guy, Let's Roll, I know. And Neil Young wrote the song, Let's Roll.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe that's why he was there.
Well, they played that show last night, so now they're off for a day or two, but they play in Gillette Stadium in Massachusetts, the last show.
I might go to that.
For this leg.
Is it Wednesday?
Yes.
I can't go. It's tomorrow. It's Wednesday night?
Yes.
Yeah.
Fuck, I can't go. Is Nils going to call him?
Yes.
Still on that moose. Me and Rob get belted out. How long have we been talking?
An hour.
It's like a very casual thing. Let's stop and wait for him to call and figure this out.
You got it.
All right. Dan has zero instinct as a radio person. Zero. Yeah, I'm with a really good friend of mine, Nils. You've met a few times. Rob Barnett is was the head of CBS Radio for a while, and a guy who is in his own right a legend in the radio and broadcasting media business. And he's a huge fan and a good man, and he's going to be sitting in with us. All right.
Sounds great, Rob. How you doing?
Hey, Nils.
Hey, you said now. Well, we're on the air. We'll get right into this. I hear these shows. I haven't been able to go lately, and I got to tell you, I'm hearing these shows are epic. And you've seen them how many times now, Rob?
We've been talking Artie's ear off about these.
Yeah, Danny saw it you saw them on this tour how many times now?
4 or 5. I was down in D.C. last week, which was amazing.
Right.
And the Jersey shows and the Brooklyn shows. But
So what's going on, Nils? Is he ramping up here to maybe say goodbye with 4-hour shows? I'm starting to get worried that it's like a goodbye tour because I hear he does. Well, you blow it out.
Well, there's I mean, again, I'm not going to speak for Bruce. I'll just speak as a fan that happens to be in the band from my perspective. I mean, look, we went over to Europe. First of all, we hadn't played in almost 2 years, and we did the States, went to Europe, and look, like it or not, we're more popular in Europe. Massive crowds, a younger audience, insane energy, and we started, getting off the river thing, which was a beautiful presentation of that double album. We did that 37 times in a row, which is very unusual for us. But it was beautiful. We got into the flow of it and songs that you just normally wouldn't hear. So after Europe, which was just spectacular, we come back to the States, and I think, like I say, we usually do better in Europe, and I think Bruce wanted to just let everyone know these last 10 shows that, he was out for Bear and to do the best shows. And also, we started doing maybe 12 and 10, 8, 11 river songs out of the 20, still focusing on the river, but a lot more of the improv that we've gotten known for, especially in the last, 16 years with Steven back, where, he'll take signs of the audience, he'll change the show literally like, sometimes on the way to the stage, he'll change the opening, and it's more of a free form, following. And so what happened was, I think, the first night in Jersey, he went out, we did like 352 or something, and then the next one was 4, the next one was 404, something like that. And I think he's just making a statement like, look, whether you want to come to the party as hard as we are, we love you, thanks for showing up, but we're going to go out and just, push ourselves as far as we can and see what happens. And I think that's what he's been doing. I mean, we're all tired and exhausted, but you're so exhilarated and happy to be part of it, and especially lately. I think it started in Jersey where it just went all out to the old catalog to start. And just for all the old fans, I remember maybe it was night 2 or 3, where all of a sudden in the first 12 songs, you've got 5, 10, 12-minute pieces. I mean, Kitty's back was 17 minutes.
Oh, man.
And that was just the first, 12 songs. So it's been very exciting and exhausting and exhilarating and fun to see a guy with that history and a dear friend with that, just, nobody has 300, 400 songs with that kind of catalog. And, he's got his autobiography coming out. I'm so excited to read it, but he wrote it. It's actually, so I think all of it put together, and 2, they just announced today we're going to go do, who knows, 10 shows, whatever it is, 9, 10 shows they announced in Australia. So it puts a very different, usually I was kind of dreading Wednesday because, when you say goodbye with no future plans, look, that's rough at any age, but when everyone's in their 60s, you're like, damn, I hope we get to do this again, and there's never a guarantee. I mean, there's no guarantee of tomorrow, but it's a little more ominous, and now that we have more to come, we're just saying goodbye for now, see you in a few months, which is a much different way to wrap up a long year of work. So I'm grateful for that. Amy, by the way, sends her love. She came in a couple nights ago, and she'll go up to Boston with me. We're going to hang out here a few days in the city before we get back to Arizona. But it's just a beautiful thing, and I got to say, it's like the icing on the cake is to, not have to say goodbye indefinitely Wednesday. I mean, we call each other, we stay in touch. But man, walking out there and doing that for 4 hours, we don't do that at home, obviously. So I'm glad there's another round coming up in Australia, and I'm glad Bruce has just decided to go all out and go crazy with it.
Yeah, my God. I mean, I can relate. I have a catalog of about 38 jokes that I retell.
But they're all good. Yeah, but they're all good. And with people like me, I'm so forgetful. You can get away with it.
It's funny. I would you talk about what you do for a living and how you guys are. I know you still do Because the Night. Rob was telling me, which is unreal. I saw the last show of the last tour in Connecticut. You guys played the Mohegan Sun, and I was there with my fiance at the time, who's now, of course, an Artie Lang statistic, and I mean the barrage of guitars in that show. You had. You, Morello, Bruce, and Little Steven.
Yeah,
I never saw a better guitar show in my life, and I knew it wasn't going to work out with the girl because in the middle, after Because the Night and Ghost of Tom Joad and all this, she looked at me and said, I DVR'd the Real Housewives of Orange County. I had to It is just a generational thing. I wanted to ask you, the younger people, these things that are called millennials, I don't know, for lack of a better word.
Hey, Artie, before you tell me the story, did she turn to you early and say, is this going to be a 60 or 90-minute concert?
No, exactly. Just, I saw Ariana Grande do 20 minutes once. And it was exhausting. I mean, again, people just don't know. They just don't get it. I'm joking around. She was someone younger who got it. Sometimes they just don't get it, but she was so... like Thunder Road became her, favorite thing ever, and because her generation isn't used to lyrics like that, and seeing people actually perform, she was blown away by it.
It was something that I've been watching now for the last 15 years in Europe. On a massive scale, we've got a younger audience. I mean, like hundreds of thousands of younger people.
Right. I saw you in Paris. I could not believe how young the crowd was. Yeah.
We always wonder, why doesn't that happen in the States? And it's just this year we started seeing a bit of it. But it's like gangbusters in Europe. And, on top of the energy, as you know, it's like when we discover our favorite artist, and I mean, Amy will tell you it was the Born to Run album. She's 10 years younger than me. That gave her permission kind of in her, soul from the spirit of the music to leave, to say, look, I can leave New Jersey and find something better for myself. I don't know where I'm going. And that album gave her that inspiration. But you like you said, the lyrics. No, there's no better lyrics in history ever. I mean, he's right up there with, Dylan and the Beatles, Neil Young. I mean, that's it. He's at the top of it. And, he just, because of that, you see these young people going back and discovering the entire catalog and just getting slammed with all those beautiful lyrics and messages, and they integrate it into their spirit, and they just keep showing up. And between that and the improv shows, every show is unique. Look, it's a beautiful thing to be a part of. I've been there 32 years now. And
oh, God. You're the new guy.
Couldn't be happier.
Yeah.
I'm still the new guy. Of course,
Yeah, I mean, you talk about everything. Parts of my life I can relate. And Rob, I want to know if you have something similar to what I'm going to say. That, even stuff he improv'd is stuff that I can connect to a certain thing in my life. When I first left New Jersey to go actually move to a different place, I was 27 years old, and I was doing stand-up on the road, but I had not gone west of Chicago to do stand-up. I got a job on a TV show where I was making $10,000 a week on a network show as a regular, and that was like my break. And I said to myself, I'm not looking back. I'm gonna. This is what I'm doing. I was driving a cab the week before I got that job. And they sent me a first-class ticket for the Fox Network and $10,000 to relocate. and an apartment for a while. I looked to relocate, a rental car, and I gave my mother a check for $15,000 that I got for the pilot. And I said, pay some.
How fun was that?
Well, no, I know. I said, pay some bills and I'll be back. And I never flew first class before. I went to my buddy dropped me off at the airport, and he went to go commit a Class A felony after he. I'm sure he did, which I thank God that got me out of that too. And I wish I was exaggerating, but I got on the plane and I thought of in the live version of Growing Up. On the live album, July 7th, 1978, at the Roxy in L.A., at the end of the song, he goes, "It was bye-bye New Jersey, we were airborne." And that went through my head. I'm like, this is my version of that. And
I was at one of those shows at the Roxy. I think
really?
We did a couple. Yeah. I went out to L.A. in '68, and me and Art Linson actually went to see him at the Roxy. I forget which night. I think he did a couple nights there, right?
Yeah, well, it's funny. They have the dates on it, and it says July 7th, 78, and that's when he recorded Growing Up. When he see his parents are in the audience, he starts talking about them. He does a whole rap about the motorcycle accident and big man, assist me, please, and all that shit. When you hear that first before you see him, I heard that album before I saw him live. I'm like, God, what the fuck must be like to see this? And then you see it. The Roxy holds. I mean, you've seen stuff at the Roxy, right? I mean, that's a small club.
I opened the Roxy. I was the first guitar player
wow.
on the stage. Neil Young's Tonight's the Night band. We were doing Tonight's the Night in '73. We were about to go to England, and all the owners, Elliot Roberts and Elmer Valentine and all those guys, and then Geffen said, "Hey, would you open our club for us?" So we were the first band to play there opening night, the Tonight's the Night band with Neil Young.
I can't let this go by because so you go with Art Linson to see Bruce at the Roxy in 1978. Now, did you know Springsteen? Were you just a fan? Or was he?
No, I was a distant fan. In 1970, his band Steel Mill and my band Grin both did an audition night for Bill Graham at the Fillmore West in Frisco.
Wow.
Trying to get an opening act gig. You play free, 20 acts, play 20 minutes each. Locals, come in and pay $1 for a beer and just watch entertainment. And I watched Bruce ever since that, followed his career. I went to see him at the Bottom Line in '74 or '5, his opening run there, just before my opening night as a solo artist after my band Grin had to break up. So I've followed him his whole career, and somewhere in there we started going back and saying hello, and we started a friendship that lasted through the years. And I lived in L.A. for so long, and the early '80s actually, it's funny, when we did the River Tour, something people didn't know was I was at the Sunset Marquee, and he used to skate there a lot. I was staying there all the time, and I saw him one morning and said, "How you doing?" He said, "Yeah, I just finished mixing this double album called The River. I'm going to the studio to check out the final mix. You want to tag along?" So I jumped in the car with him, went there, and sat in a room, put me through up in the middle of some beautiful speakers, and played the double album. Of course, back in those days, this was like 80, I think it was 81. I wake up and I go to my fridge and I take out a 6-pack of Mai Tais and, throw it in the fridge at the studio and pop one at 10 a.m. and listen to the album. Yeah. And, none of us knew that 4 or 5 years later, he'd need a guitar player, and I was, very grateful to get a shot at it, and it worked out. But I'm a bbig fan, man. The writing is just spectacular, and now I think, looking back with the book coming out, I think he's just like, man, I'm good. I've worked my ass off. Nevertheless, I've been blessed with my skills physically. I'm singing. I can still push my body like this. I got a great band, even though we've lost our, dear friends, terrible losses, and not just the band. Terry McGovern, his right-hand man, John Mulheron, his best. Yeah. And that's just in the E Street family, and life, man. Then you got your own family, your own friends, your high school, all that people, you lose them, and the grief gets rough. So to be able to walk out with guys with that history and be able to do that is such a blessing, and I think he's realizing, and I think that also plays into, like, look, while I can, let's just go out and kill it and go till we drop.
Rob, go ahead.
Nils, I was going to say that, there's something also about this year because we've lost so many heroes. It got to a point, and obviously you guys, it affected the set on a lot of nights, but it just seemed like, the people that shaped the way we felt about rock and roll and Bowie, ourselves and Prince, like, that week after week, we started losing people. So I think for me and for a lot of fans that have been seeing this band for 40 years or more, it took on this other idea, in addition to putting the pedal down and playing the hardest shows you've ever played. It just seemed like, oh my God, like, how many heroes are left? No,
I think that you're very correct about that. I still remember. Look back, I went out to Topanga Canyon with my band Grin in the late '60s, and I still remember I rented a lousy home in Normandy Avenue in Hollywood, and I used to hitchhike out to Topanga Canyon to see Neil Young and David Briggs, who were my young mentors. And one day, it takes like hours. I started dawn, and by 10 or 11 in the morning, I'm finally at the base of Topanga Canyon. I got my thumb out. Car pulls over. Where you going? I'm going to the Topanga Shopping Center. He said, "Get in. I'll give you a ride." It was Glenn Frey.
Wow.
And he was just starting out. I'd heard about him, just putting the Eagles together. And then 2 years later, a few years later in '73, they had their big hit "Witchy Woman," and they opened for the Tonight Tonight tour when we went on the road in England. The Eagles opened for us. But Glenn was one of those guys, even at an early age, he was so kind, friendly, supportive, and even through the years when I go to see the Eagles as the superstars they became, he was the same down-to-earth guy. And, it was just really rough that night watching Bruce go out and do Take It Easy and the memories I have. And then, of course, the other one that just killed me was, I just went to the Garden and sat there. No, it was Brooklyn, and sat there for a couple hours just jamming on YouTube to one of my heroes, Prince playing Purple Rain, just trying to get inside where he was at. I couldn't memorize anything. I just wanted to play it and try to absorb his spirit because Bruce said we're going to be doing it that night. And what an awful reason to learn and get close inside a great song because you're going to perform it. But yeah,
Nils, it was one of the most special things of the year, and I have to tell you that the next night, that last night in Brooklyn, when the tour broke for the second night, there was this raging debate because we felt like you played that so incredibly well the first night. We couldn't imagine, will it be a one-time only thing?
Yeah.
And then it came back, as an encore, I think, right? The second time.
Right. Yeah, and, look.
It was beautiful.
Me, I love, repetition helps me because you just get so deep down in it, and you get more and more, you shut your mind off because you're just so familiar with something. Or it's just like, I'm sure going to a great club with a comedy show, Artie, and, they haven't heard your best stuff in years, and that's all they want. It's just like, singing an old song or telling an old joke that's new that night because that's what the audience does. It's like, hey, this is all new to us. We might not ever see it again. For a lot of people, it's the first time around, and they make what you do brand new for that night. And, you don't get that anywhere else.
Right. No, you're right. And I can honestly say the comedy club thing is very nice of you to say, but it's nowhere near you doing Purple Rain. Again, talking about, the demons that I have, and we've talked about it off the air, and it's an ongoing thing. It's so terrible when you hear Prince at 57, Nils, with what you've gone through in your life, and you're just an impressive guy in a lot of ways that I won't get into, but you've helped me out quite a bit off the air. When you hear that Prince, this iconic guy. And you talk about addiction. Here's a legendary, iconic rock star, like a god, on a bicycle by himself outside a pharmacy, waiting for a pharmacist who's probably getting him shit illegal because no one else will probably go, and he'll only sell to Prince because he's afraid to sell to somebody else. And something that I went through on a much smaller level, to think with a fentanyl patch that he became addicted to, he dies alone, taking his last grasp of air in an elevator in his mansion by himself because he's an addict. What goes through your mind when you hear that? That made me cry.
Yeah, no, look, it made me cry, rage, scream, hate, love. I mean, it's a nightmare, man. We've all seen it. And the tragic thing is, it's funny because, Amy, who's been around me for 20 years, and when she was a kid, she did the merchandise. She's a professional cook by trade and awesome killer cook, but she did merchandise as a kid for Toto, the Tubes, Andy Williams, the Beach Boys, the Go-Go's, and she saw a lot of that stuff. But what her line is that, fame quickly becomes a mental illness. And for, anybody with a lot of fame, I don't even consider myself one of those, but I've been around it a lot, and I realize that you really got to be careful. And you're right, it's sad. Like, you'd think a Prince, like Prince would be, I got $1 zillion, I'm friggin' Prince, I'm in trouble. I don't need to tell anybody, let me get some great doctors, and I guess they were on the way, but it was too late. Let me circle the wagons. And also, too, you're sad because, people want to just keep their jobs, and they look at a guy like Prince like a god. But, I mean, when they had to land him to get a save shot, because he was ODing on the plane, and then he goes to a party the next night. I mean, it's funny because, again, Amy, who sadly has a lot of experience with her ex-husband with this, and people in her lives, and we all have that. She said, why wouldn't the guy go up to him and say, look, Prince, I love you, and we're going to a hospital right now, or I'm going to the press.
Right.
I'm not going to sit here and watch you kill yourself. So let me take you to the hospital. We'll get you well, check into a program, or else I'm going to the press and trying to make that happen before you take yourself out. And that's the sad thing about addiction. And what you say, too, just to veer off about comedy not being in the same league. Look, when I met Amy 20 years ago for the second time, we go to the Improv all the time. And I got to tell you, man, I know, comedians, musicians, there's a lot of guys that struggling with alcohol, drugs, crazy drama, but man, I gotta say, there's some nights when I or Amy we have such a rough day that we just didn't have it with us to go to a concert, but we gladly go to the Improv, and man, you sit there and have a great comedian make you belly laugh for an hour. That is medicine, Artie. So don't demean that. That is serious spiritual medicine, and just because you might be, a health nut or, out of your mind on drugs or alcohol, and your gift still comes through and you deliver to people. And, whatever it is, man, comedy is a very powerful thing when it's done right, and you do that all the time. So give yourself some credit.
Well, I appreciate it. You were actually in at the Tempe, Arizona Improv. My first, I was just telling Rob this, the first taping of a special I ever did. It's the Whiskey Talking. You're in the audience, and that's all I tell people if they see it. My buddies, all I say is the only thing I can say is Nils Lofgren is in the fourth row.
and I guess if there's a message, I always thought it's funny. I was on the road going crazy, getting ready, missing my family terribly, my dogs, so excited about a show to play, and I heard something on the news about there had been something at Prince's, house, and somebody been a fatality. And you know what, Artie? It never entered my mind that it was Prince. I just walked out of the room knowing it was some. That's me. I look at a guy like that, even though I know, all about that, and I'm in recovery myself for 28 years. I never occurred to me because he seemed like a guy that was so spiritually connected with these gifts that he'd be 100 years old and playing and singing for us. And it's a harsh reminder, and anyone who's listening who gives a shit, if you have a problem, man, there is a lot of help, but you do have to ask for it and do it now. Pick up the phone, man, because there's a lot of help now that didn't used to be 50, 80 years ago.
Well, it's correct. A lot of people feed off it, too. There's a lot of little leeches. But, the only reason I went there to thinking it was Prince is what you were talking about the week before when the plane landed. And, but, again, you talk about the trappings of fame. How hard must it have been to be Prince every fucking night? He created almost a cartoon character who happened to be genius, and it's women, record fights with record companies that he had. He had that whole aspect of himself, and businessman, and he was clearly not the greatest money guy that you thought he was. Staying in Minneapolis, that's something else. He never went to L.A. He stays true to that, and dying in that mansion like that got to me. But
too, whether you're manic or have some mental illness, or you're just normal and you've got a gift. I mean, I can't speak for other artists, but most of the gift I have is not of my own making. I practiced a lot. I could have practiced more. I'm still pretty diligent. But, how I put notes together, I don't feel like I created that between my parents' DNA and some higher power. I don't like organized religion at all. But I believe I'm spiritual. I believe in some kind of God, whatever the hell it is. I believe in it. And that's where I got how I put notes together, and I just worked at it. I mean, there's people that play twice as fast as me, that practice twice as hard as me, that don't hear the notes going together like I do, and I didn't create that. I was given it. So I'm trying to nurture it and take care of it. But, you get into a mania, whether you're, like say you're 20, 25, or at our age too, where you get in a jag, whether it's writing music or jokes or you're working with people, and next thing you know, 50 hours go by, and you're doing it, and you forget you have a body. And sometimes you forget, okay, now my body is 65. Or 52, or 50, and I gotta even a guy like Prince. He just, what you wish was he said, okay, I'm manic, I'm a genius, I just want to do this, but I want to do it for a while, so this body needs to stop and walk away or read a book, even though I don't want to. I gotta just cool it, and that's hard to do when you have a gift like that and you take it to the level he did. But we all have to wrestle with our own demons or gifts that take us over to go, okay, enough, man. Just let's go see a ball game or something where we can't break out in song, all right? Let's just watch a ball game and get the hell out of our mania.
I sometimes think three things can happen, right, when the massive fame hits, right? Thing one, probably the most common, you become a little bit of a dick. Right. Thing two.
Some people get stuck in that for years.
Yeah. Thing two, the sad and super rare, which is you get really sick and unhealthy and sometimes don't make it. And then I feel like thing three, the rarest of the rare, you figure out how to stay centered and figure out how to stay a person. I mean,
and Nils, that got us in that category three.
I've always felt that way. And Bruce, anytime, I think I met him first in 1980, or a guy like Jon Stewart or Jimmy Kimmel, who I've worked with in the past. Like, these guys wear a T-shirt all day long. They're working, they're producers. Right. And then at night they happen to put on a suit and do a show for 20 or 30 minutes without it going to their heads. But Nils, I feel like that's got to be still the rarest and the hardest thing, right? Is to keep your head on.
Yeah, and even though there is help and people are pulling for you, you still got to decide to seek it out and find a balance. And sometimes that's the hardest thing. And I've been just incredibly blessed with my family being supportive and getting to be in great bands. I mean, again, my first musical family, way back when I was 17, I snuck backstage on Neil Young. Make a very long story short, he took me under his wing, befriended me. A year later, at 18, I was doing the After the Gold Rush record with him. And October 22nd and 3rd, I'm invited to his Bridge School benefit to sing and play and help him raise money to help handicapped kids. Him and his wife, Peggy, put that together 30 years ago. And I've been very lucky and blessed. There's a lot of ups, a lot of downs. But, man, to be in, I'll go back and sing my own shows, little nightclubs. But still, people show up. I don't care if it's 300 or 80,000. If they're there to hear you share a gift and be good at it, it's a very inspiring, thing and rare air and to me a blessing that most people don't get. So I try not to ever take it for granted and show up early and practice. And thankfully, in my position with the gift of music, it's just never hard to do. I get homesick, of course. I don't want to leave Amy and my 4 dogs, but it actually makes me more focused on the show and more excited. Like, man, after 48 years on the road this month, I get to walk out this Wednesday in Boston and do my 75th show with that band. And I mean, we're still getting better. and we're still growing in what we do. And man, that's just I don't pretend any of the gift that I'm very grateful for, and I always will be.
This is a version of A Few Good Men plus Patty plus Susie. We need you on that wall. We want you on that wall. Do not stop.
Absolutely.
Well, look, like I said earlier, thank God it's not goodbye till we don't know when. Thank God it's goodbye, go home, take care of yourself. Well, we'll see you in Australia, and keep singing and playing.
It's fun. I'll let you go. I realize your life when I talk to you a lot, Nils, is you talk about Topanga Canyon and Laurel Canyon, that area of L.A. in the late 60s, early 70s, and Neil Young and such, and all the stories you hear. I mean, that was, to be a part of that as a kid, that a teenager really, when he went out there, basically, that was, had the same vibe as like, Paris in the 20s with like Hemingway and Picasso, and you get that creative sense of like from the Eagles documentary. They even said, Joe Walsh said what that led into the L.A. sound in the 70s that you were involved with, and then going into Bruce, having that second act in your life, it's really impressive,
Yeah, and I again, these are just blessings I could have never dreamed up. And then, of course, on the Born USA tour, Max, who wrote a great drum book called The Big Beat, said Ringo, who was in the book, Advices to his birthday party at his house in Tittenhurst, Lennon's old house he had bought, the White House, and we go there after a show at Wembley for a late night birthday party, and he has a band set up to jam, equipment to jam, and all night I'm like, because I was playing classical accordion from 5 to 15, and it was really the Beatles who got me off of it and made me fall in love with rock and roll. And it was through the Beatles and Stones I discovered saxophone, Motown, all of it, the Little Richard, Elvis, the whole thing, Elvis Presley. I mean, all those guys I discovered, Howlin' Wolf, Muddy Waters. But anyway, so I wait all night. I finally get to play with Ringo. It's wonderful. We're sitting up late, having drinks, talking. All of a sudden he says, "Here, take my phone number. Stay in touch. I like you." And so I call him every few weeks, and I go to England every year and play, and he comes, sees me play and perform. I maintain a friendship. It's beautiful. And then in 1989 he calls and says, "Look, I'm tired of not playing. I've got to play. I'm going to put an all-star band together. I want you to be in the band." And I was just out of my mind happy. He told us when we're going to start, rehearse. We'd play for 4 months, put a show together. And I was out of my mind. I said, "Oh, great, man. I'll see you in a couple of weeks. I'm going to," or whatever it was, "I'm going to get ready and start studying the songs. I'll get them from your manager," blah, blah, blah. So I go to say goodbye. I'm on cloud 9 now to have a chapter with one of the Beatles who inspired me to rock and roll. And he says, "Well, wait a minute. Don't you want to know who's in the band?" And I was like, "Well, you're in the band, right?" He said, "Yep, I'm in the band." That's enough for me. So let me tell you anyway. You got Levon Helm and Rick Danko.
Wow.
Dr. John and Billy Preston.
This is the first one, right? This is the first one.
You and Joe, yeah, the first one. You and Joe Walsh on guitars, Jim Keltner on drums, and Clarence Clemens, your buddy, on sax. And to this day, that's another musical family. I got to do the first two and open for another one. And me and Amy are going to go see him play in November in Phoenix when we're home there. And again, and the countless musicians I've gotten to play with and work with at the Amnesty Tour in '88 with Sting and Peter Gabriel, and got to know Branford Marsalis really well. We played basketball all over the world, and just that kind of camaraderie you find. And I've been blessed to have it on and off for 48 years with my own bands, and then these other great chapters. I mean, geez, it's like the musical lottery. I hit it. I'm trying to honor each day and do my best. Right now, I get to just not have to be the heavy and be the band leader. I get to be in this great band and do whatever I can to help Bruce get off and do his thing.
I'll leave you with this quick story I never told you, because I was talking to the guy that. And then Rob, if you want to say something, you could say something. I want to let Nils go. It's getting a little late. I appreciate you staying up, but I realized I never told you this. I had a sponsor for a little while who is no longer with us. He was a guy that I really. I met through a great comic who I look up to, and he was an older guy, and he he was funny in his own right, but he was a big music fan, and he got a real gravelly voice. He was a Brooklyn guy. You know what are you doing? Come on, you got to get well. And like screaming and stuff at you, and it worked for me. Sometimes stuff just works for you. And he said, I want you to write down something that makes life, worth living every week. If something special happens to you, write it down. I said, okay. A lot of times stuff like that to me it doesn't work, but for this guy it sort of worked. So the afternoon I went to your hotel in New York, and I asked you I told you that it would definitely help my sobriety if I could learn how to play just a couple of songs. If I knew how to play Night Moves on guitar, I would probably never leave the house.
Right.
And you said, come over to my hotel. And Nils Lofgren says, come over. I'll teach you how to play Night Moves. So we're up there for like 2 hours. And Danny, Danny came up to get me because you had to go. And you were so nice to take the fucking time out. Here's a rock star on the road, and trying to teach this road comic how to play Night Moves. And I left there. This is so funny when I think about it. I left there going, I kind of got it. It took time, but I have no musical ability. And the way you taught me, it kind of worked. So I go to this guy, and the thing I wrote down that week that made life worth living was Nils Lofgren taught me how to play Night Moves. And this guy was a big music fan, and he goes, wow, my God, come on, see what you have here. I mean, how could you possibly do it? And he goes, why don't you play a little bit for me? And I go, all right. So the guy had a guitar in his apartment, and an acoustic guitar, because he was a music guy, and he could play a little bit. Right. So Nils, I try to play, this is 3 hours after I left you about. I try to play it, and I get through what I remembered in my musical talent. And I see the guy writing something down on a piece of paper, and he goes, okay, why don't we stop there? We'll talk about it. He goes, I got to go meet another guy. He goes, I go, what'd you write down? He goes, I made just a change to what you wrote down. And he put an arrow up, and it said, Nils Lofgren tried to teach me how to play that.
Yeah, man. But look, that's the thing, though. It's just the act of learning, man. You got to practice and go through all that shit. I'm still going early to the shows and practicing stuff. I'm trying to get my hands to do it if they can't. But that's the journey of it. And because you love music, that
yes.
You don't have to be a genius on it. You just got to have an instrument and pick it up once in a while, make some sounds. And hey, Artie, by the way, anytime you're ready for more lessons, I'm always available.
How about that? Well, it was just a thought that, and the guy said to me, he goes, you kind of get, I told the guy, listen, the thought of him taking the time and having that memory and the fact that you say stuff like the offer's still there, that alone has stopped me from, fucking up in a lot of different ways. And
I get it. And I get it, man. And look, next time you're doing a show in the Phoenix area, come a day early and we'll do another one.
That's great.
Me and Amy love you as a friend and value your friendship deeply, Artie, and it works both ways. So keep that in mind next time you want to break out a guitar and go at it with me.
Well, you've been very good to me, Nils. You and Amy, I appreciate it. I always appreciate when you're coming on. You're doing some solo shows too, right? You got your own tour coming up in the fall. We got to check this out as well.
Yeah, just 4 shows in November. It's all at nilslofgren.com. 4 shows in the Bay Area in November, 4 in Texas in December, and then I'm going to hunker down and get ready for this Australian run middle of January, and just try to take care of myself and keep at it. Grateful for every show and every day.
Keep it up, Nils. What's your website and Twitter and all that stuff again? You want to say that real quick? Do you know that?
It's just nilslofgren.com.
Okay.
If you go there, there's a link to my Facebook page and Twitter.
Oh, that's awesome.
At nilslofgren.com.
We'll come check you out. Rob, you want anything in closing?
Thanks for being there, man. Thank you for so much joy in a year where we needed it more than ever.
Yeah.
It's just been amazing to have you guys out there. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
man. Thank you. And obviously the planet's in some deep trouble, man. So you keep making people laugh. I'll keep singing and playing, and everybody out there keep doing what you're best at, and let's try to turn it around.
Right. I love you, Nils. I will talk to you soon. And best to Amy, okay?
All right. All the best, Rob. Good to talk to you. Love you, Artie.
All right, buddy.
Thanks, man.
Take care of yourself.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. So, it's like you get those days where you get open invite to learn how to play guitar. Nils
I could
Lofgren.
teach you Smoke on the Water. That's all I know.
Well, I say, I have so. Thank God. I mean, do you play guitar?
No, drums.
Yeah, drum. Well, there you go. You play an instrument. People always said, and what's a God-given gift that people call comedy? I'm like, Jesus Christ, knock, knock, who's there? It's simple. But learning a riff coming out of you, like, he's talking about that time at Topanga Canyon. He hung out with Neil Young before the Bruce era. Like F. Scott Fitzgerald said, there's no second acts in American lives. He's had the most amazing two, and they were both in
Ringo.
and Ringo. That's the other part of it too. That all-star band, him and Joe Walsh on guitar. I mean, what the fuck? So,
by the way, the Purple Rain that we talked about that he did in Brooklyn is actually, they put the video on Bruce's site, so the video's out and available.
That's great.
It's on BruceSpringsteen.net.
Yeah, that's great.
Where you can see him just demolish Purple Rain. It's
I'm glad
beautiful.
you brought that up, and I'm glad you saw it. It was good to because again, people don't realize when you hear these things, Bruce Nils is his go-to guy with the guitar.
That was really cool, by the way, to hear you talk to him about Prince's passing. That was an amazing.
Well, again, I really said to myself when I heard that, man, that's addiction. You get it knows no. He gets reduced to a junkie. He's alone I thought of him alone in that fucking elevator on fentanyl. I mean, fentanyl makes heroin look like a Tylenol PM. He had the patches that you put on, goes right into your system, which means the kind of high he had to maintain, what his tolerance was, had to be insane. And even a guy like that runs out of shit and is on a plane going into withdrawals and has to fucking land. His life must have been a living hell for the last few years. And then, I don't want to say it to make it sound funny, but part of like at least with Bruce, if you, not that he has those demons, but a guy like him, if he has any demons, he has to get through it. It's hard to be famous. At least he's a guy. He's just like a guy. He got jeans on. Prince has to keep looking like that. You got you're an opiate addict, and you're trying to deal with that. And when you perform, Charlie Parker just put on a wrinkled shirt and played the sax. Right. Prince has to put four 14-inch heels and sequin gowns and I mean, Jesus Christ, can I have a night where I just wear Levi? Hard to do, man. And 57 years old, he still couldn't beat it. But I'm glad that you were here for that, Rob. Good job, Danny, to talk to him. Thank you for coming in, man.
Thanks, man. That was amazing. I really appreciate it.
This is, like I say, we enjoy doing it this hour, but next time, if you come early, we'll order in the food. We threaten to have Hoboken food next time. Come, we'll eat. We'll nosh first, because I could do it about 6 or 7. I said, fuck it, I'm going nocturnal with the podcast. They've gotten better since I did that. Anything you want to mention at all about what you got going on?
Go see you at Caroline's. How about that?
Yeah, there you go. That Thursday, thank you. Yeah, Thursday, which is technically tomorrow, I guess, and one show Friday and Saturday coming up, 2 shows each at the Legendary Club. They've been good to me for a long time. I've been playing Caroline's for 22 years. And Caroline and all the people over there, Lewis and Andrew, Greg Charles, very, very good to me. So it's always fun to play Caroline's. Come check me out. And Rob, as always, you got an open invite. Call in, whatever you want to do. If you want to come by, I love having you here.
Thanks, man.
You're a good man. Damn TV. Right? You're still doing that, right? I mean, you're
No, we got the new thing now. It's robbarnettmedia.com. We just launched.
Yeah, I was going to say, you got to mention that. Sure. I have robbarnettmedia.com, and that encompasses everything.
Yep.
Yeah. That's fun. We should talk, right?
Yes.
We're going to put this on television. We're going all the way with this.